for this, yeah, Matt led us with the waivers.
You mean,
I got the
don't think I ever saw
lightsaber
a
ready,
copy.
buddy. We'll be done in a minute. Well, he submitted them. He just told Brian has them upstairs. He never forwarded them onto the board. That's what he just told me.
well, I was up there today and he didn't have them, and I think he thought Mr. Emmett was just gonna bring them tonight.
Yeah, no, that,
Mr. Mentor said it didn't.
Okay. So I'll get back to him and say.
Have you
Obviously,
seen
since we're
waivers?
at Tuesday this week, it's probably next week.
No,
I don't know.
he's got a little list here.
But we have to wait for Brian to get back here.
No, I just remember the verbal discussion about it. We didn't see the written list.
Yeah, there was
We showed up 30 minutes late.
Yes, now I can wave my gavel so FCTV can find that we're starting the meeting. So it is 6:34, and I call the December 9th Planning Board meeting to order. The minutes for November 5th.
Oh, you're renovating it?
The minutes were submitted as approved, and it's recommended that we approve them.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other comments on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. The first on the agenda is plan, approval not required plans, and we have none, as I understand it. We have next on the agenda, public hearing continuation. The applicant is Franciscan Friars for a special permit to subdivide 3 lots into 2 lots with 75% lot width at Lot 27 Uncatina North and Lot 51 Noshan North Falmouth. And,
Was there any notices?
pardon?
Notices?
Notices?
Oh, notices. See, this was kind of before, and I didn't know, we didn't start anything. Okay. The notices, please. Paul, notices.
I don't have it.
Did you notice?
Doesn't have it.
I'll apologize for that. We'll just look it up right now. So this was re-advertised. And we'll send that right down to you, Mr. Clerk Secretary.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Okay, here it is. Planning Board public hearing notice for this project was published on November 21st, 2014, November 18th, and December 5th, 2014. 23 abutter notices were resent on 11/21/14 by regular mail.
Bob.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Bob Ament. I'm an attorney in Falmouth, and I represent the applicant. The applicant is a Massachusetts nonprofit corporation. It's St. Anthony Shrine Order of Friar Minors, province of the Most Holy Name. And they are an order of Franciscan friars who have a church in Boston, do good deeds, and have a retreat center in Falmouth. And across the street from the property that they own and use as a retreat for the friars in the cliffs in West Falmouth is the property that's the subject of tonight's hearing. They have for many years owned 3 lots. They're shown on the plan before you. 1, 2, 3 lots. Uncatina North, Cliff Road runs all the way out to the public way, Quaker Road, and Noshan North. And the lots are undersized, and the request is by special permit to allow the friars to redivide the property into 2 lots, each a buildable lot, as is allowed by the zoning bylaw. Now, back around 1980, as you know, the zoning bylaw was amended to increase required lot sizes and other dimensional requirements, but at the same time to provide a series of grandfathering provisions for owners of existing lots of record. And one of those sections allows the redivision of undersized lots into lots that are larger but don't meet the requirement of the current zoning bylaw. In fact, the footnote in that section of the zoning bylaw, 240-67A, states that for up to 3 lots, the zoning requirements, that is the dimensional size requirements for lots, as of 1984, would remain applicable to the special permit application. At the time, the required zoning in the residential B area was 20,000 square feet, meaning that the bylaw allows lots to be created as long as they are at least, they average 15,000 square feet. It's 75% of the then required area of 20,000 square feet. The bylaw requires determination that a majority of the lots in the neighborhood have been developed, and says that if the lots are in a water resource protection district or a coastal pond overlay district, then you need to look at the nutrient loading issues. Well, this area, the cliffs, these lots are not in any environmentally sensitive area like that. They're not within coastal pond overlay district or water resource protection, nor within 300 feet of an estuary. So those are not concerns applicable to the bylaw, really. There are approximately 54 building lots in the cliffs. Almost all of them have been built upon. And I took the assessor's map, and I'll give you this, and it shows that there are 31 lots, not counting the lots in question, that are under 20,000 square feet in size. All but one or two of them have been built upon. And the average of size of all of these lots is actually a little less than 15,000 square feet. So I think this is an important sketch, and I'll give it to you.
You want to start it down there, Bob, please? Thank you.
So every one of the lots that's bounded by yellow marker on that sheet is one of those less than 20,000 square feet lots. Some of them are around 12,000 square feet. And as I said, the average is less than 15,000 square feet. And the average of these two lots to be created will be just about 16,500 square feet. Surrounded by the three streets. One of the streets, Noshawn North, has just been paved. There's a hydrant at the corner of Cliff Road and Noshawn South, and another hydrant where Cliff Road turns at Uncatina North, so there's a hydrant virtually across the street from both of these lots. They're entirely wooded except for a small parking area that's used by the friars, and if the lot is built upon, it will no longer be used for that purpose, I'm sure. On Noshawn North, just to the northeast of the property, this piece, there's a piece of property owned by the Cliff Dwellers. That's the neighborhood association, so it will stay wooded and won't be developed. You can appreciate when you're out there that these lots are perfectly suitable in terms of size, adequate in size for the proposed use. And you can tell that also looking at that drawing I've just given you, seeing all of the houses on the relatively small, relatively similarly sized lots. Under the bylaw, when you're asked to grant a special permit, you look at the adequacy of the size, the suitability for the proposed use. It's a single-family residential area, and that's the proposed use. Impact on traffic flow and safety, and the roads are perfectly good in the area. Two more houses in the cliffs isn't going to make any difference in the traffic on the public ways. Neighborhood visual character, it's a residential area. There are no particular views of the water or otherwise that are affected by this. Of course, the cliffs is a special area in part because most of the area between Quaker Road and where the houses begin has been turned into it's open space, subject to a conservation restriction. So it's a private area with already a great deal of open space. There's town water In the streets, of course, I mentioned the hydrants. There will be on-site septic. The lots are obviously adequate for that. And all the other utilities are there. There's overhead wires for electricity. These two lots are already assessed as if they are two lots. The average assessment is around $400,000 on each of these lots. Not too many years ago, the total assessment on these two lots was almost $1.2 million. The friars do pay taxes on these lots. They need to raise funds to maintain their retreat. So the approval of this special permit will allow them to sell these lots, which aren't critical to their mission. And it'd certainly be good for them, and it also would increase the taxes that are paid on the property if these are developed. I don't think there's much more that needs to be said about this application. If you have questions, of course, I'm happy to answer your questions.
Brian, do you have any comments?
I think Bob's covered it all.
Okay. How about the board? Yes, Paul?
Mr. Chairman, I have just two observations. One, there's a lot more property here owned by the same client of yours. Is that right?
Well, not really. You're looking at a lot next to it, and it has the same name, but that's not the same corporation. That's a New York corporation. They weren't in separate ownership. That lot's already been sold. There's a house on it now. It appears to be almost ready for occupancy. They do own the property across the way, however, and that's where their retreat is, and there is a vacant lot over there as well. But I don't think they have plans to do.
Basically, what you're trying to do is increase the lot size on this underside lot to 75% of the 20,000. Is that correct?
Well, the two lots together, three lots together contain about 33,000 square feet. And these lots, all three of them are separately described in the land court records. And those two lots, the larger ones date from a 1926 plan, and the smaller lot dates from 1932. So the proposed, and they're being assessed as if they're now two building lots. We're simply asking that they be, from a zoning point of view, that's the way they be treated, so that they have a special permit, can go get a building permit for each lot, so two lots.
This yellow line should be here,
Anyone else?
and this line should be not shown.
I have a question.
Yes.
It was just a typo.
I guess you're here looking for a special permit because under the guidelines for buildability and timing-wise, these don't fit for it, so you're looking a way to get around that? Is that a true, an honest way to look at it?
I don't think that the phrasing is
Would these
fair.
lots, let me ask again, have these lots been under the guidelines, would they be merged normally because of the change in zoning?
Not under our zoning bylaw, which specifically provides for the special permit that we're asking for. So the owner has done nothing to cause these lots to be merged. The land court doesn't show them merged. There's no plan of record showing them merged. And our zoning bylaw specifically allows for the special permit that we're asking for.
And what's the condition that triggers that?
The section is 240-66C6. It reads as follows. Any lot held in common ownership,
Right.
it's okay if it's held in common ownership with any adjoining lot as of January 1, 1981, may apply to the planning board for a special permit to construct a single-family residence if the lots are on roads which have been constructed as of April 1, 1982, and if the lots are re-subdivided so that the total area of the commonly held lots,
Okay.
when
I'm all set.
divided by the
Thank
number...
you, I got it.
Okay, so it's allowed, it's
what
specifically
I
allowed,
needed,
it was
thank you.
one of the grandfathering provisions in the bylaw.
I'm all set.
Okay.
I didn't remember that.
Does anyone else on the board
I
have
don't think so.
comments or questions? Okay, anybody from the public have comments or questions? Okay, then at this point, we'll close the hearing, and we can take it under advisement and come back at another time. Or if you consider it to be simple enough, we could deal with, Brian, do you have a decision if we vote on a decision tonight?
I do not have one.
You do not, okay, so then we will take it under advisement. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you know, could you tell us when the next meeting will be that this will be brought up? Yeah.
Oh, probably the first week in January.
Okay.
We have 90 days after the close of the hearing to make a decision.
Okay, so it'll be brought up then. All right,
We'll put it in proper form for you.
yeah, I just didn't know whether you were prepared for that tonight or not, since this is rather simple. We move on to a decision. The applicant is James Kerrigan for a modification of a definitive plan to reduce the number of lots from 3 to 2 and change the roadway construction standards at lots 000A, 001-003, Lower Road, East Falmouth. And the engineering firm is J.E. Landers Colley. And I will remind the board that when this came up, I was not here, as was Ralph or Ken, so the three of us cannot vote on this. And, let's see, we have a decision here. You want to read that, Ken?
Okay. Motion that the planning board vote to approve the application of 115 County Road Realty Trust under Article 4 Definitive Plan, Chapter 305, Subdivision Regulations of the Town of Falmouth, for a plan entitled Modification of Definitive Plan, Highlander Knolls in Falmouth, Mass., prepared for 115 County Road Realty Trust, prepared by J.E. Landers Colley, dated October 21st, 2014, revised November the 3rd, 2014, scale 1 inch to 40 feet, together with the road, with a road improvement plan and profile entitled Plan and Profile prepared for 115 County Road Realty Trust of Lower Road, Falmouth, Mass., dated August 27th, 2014, last revised November 5th, 2014. Prepared by J.E. Landers Colley, P.E., with the following findings and conditions. Findings. This application represents a modification of the Planning Board's October 1st, 1986 decision creating the Highlander Knolls subdivision. Here the applicant seeks to reduce the number of lots from 3 to 2 and proposes to modify the construction standards for Lower Road as presented in the road improvement plan referenced above. A list of waivers from the Planning Board's rules and regulations in the form of a letter dated November 12, 2014 from Amit Law Firm, LLC, has been submitted and incorporated by reference here. Except as modified by this decision. The board finds these waivers acceptable, consistent with the typical roadway designs found in the neighborhood, while still providing suitable access to the lots in the subdivision. The site is located in the Great Pond Coastal Pond Overlay District. However, the number of lots is being reduced, so no enhanced nitrogen removal shall be necessary. Waivers. The planning board grants those waivers found in Amit Law Firm letter dated November 12, 2014, referenced above, except as modified by the conditions below. Conditions. The town water shall be provided to lots 3 and 4 and a fire hydrant installed as per the road improvement plan. The planning board is declining to waive 305-36C and F regarding overhead utilities. All utilities shall be installed underground. A suitable bond or conveyance shall be submitted within 6 months of the decision, or the board may take action to rescind this plan. Prior to the final release of the covenant or bond, the applicant shall provide an electronic version of the subdivision plan in a portable document file.
Actually, I probably shouldn't have had you read it, because you're not eligible.
Well,
Okay.
I'm not motioning, I'm just reading.
You're reading it, but I do need a second on it.
No, you need a motion.
Yeah, could I have a second on the motion? Okay. Is there discussion on this?
I'm still digesting the waivers. Is everyone, the ones that are voting, have we all had time to read them?
No, I'd like to see that too.
Oh, I thought it was passed down.
There's 16 of them.
So the only concern I have is the widening of the road stopping at the 295 feet from the existing pavement of Harriet Road. When I went out and looked at the project, I'm not exactly sure where the property lines end, but from what I could determine, the most narrow part is the first part of this road, and it seems like it would be a shame to only clear the first 295 feet and then just leave a small, narrow part, which is what it looked like to me. So I would like to say, I'm fine with waiving the pavement, but I'd like the widening to go to the extent of the new lot.
Yeah, I found the same thing when I walked it too. Didn't seem consistent.
Okay, other comments?
You'd have to make that as a motion, and second, vote that.
Okay.
I just wondered whether there were other comments on that, though at this point, and Bob says yes, he found that also true.
Well, I have a comment. I would probably have exception to a lot of these things, except for when you read number 16, that there's only 2 lots in the subdivision. So we need to step back and think about that. That's really important to understand. I mean, they're asking for an awful lot of waivers for a subdivision plan, but there's only 2 lots.
Doug, do you wish to put that into the form of a motion? There seem to be no other from those eligible to vote.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion that we change the wording from 295 feet to the extent of the development, to the end of this property line where this ends.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion on the motion?
Any comment, Paul?
I have no comments. I'd just say, we discussed this at length at the last public hearing.
Right,
So a
we
lot of these
did,
issues we discussed.
but we didn't have these waivers, though.
Right.
No, we specifically asked for those
Right,
waivers.
that's
Ms.
what we hear.
Tomlin agreed to provide those, so I
Now
think
we got
that's
'em.
fine.
But if there's no further discussion on Doug's motion, I would call for a vote of the 4 eligible people for this. So, all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Okay, so that's unanimous for the amendment. Okay, is there any other discussion or amendments on this?
No, I think everything.
Now, it's like Jim says, it does look pretty daunting when you look at all 16, but when you do consider it's only
Okay.
two lots at the end.
It's a pretty rural area.
Yeah.
We have a motion. We have an amendment to the motion. And so at this point, I would call for the 4 people who are eligible to vote on the amended motion. All, Bob, the discussion really was closed on this, but,
I guess I just have a question.
okay. I will allow it since there aren't a lot of people here, but,
The plan shows a location of a turnaround, and it shows water service to be installed sufficient to serve the 2 lots. And the board is going to require underground service, which we would have presumed would have been only within the road shown on the plan and sufficient to serve the 2 lots. My question is, if the board is expecting to extend utilities another 300 feet to property we don't own, as well as widening the road, would you allow us, if we requested, to withdraw the application?
Well, my intent was not to require extending utilities farther, only the road widening. And if there are utilities that are problematic, maybe it could just be a reasonable widening to the extent of your property, not beyond the, I'm not expecting anyone to go beyond the property line here as delineated.
you're talking about the turnaround.
You mean not beyond the turnaround?
Right.
Yeah, well, right now, there's no water service, so we'd be bringing it to that, and we would bring in underground utilities to that point. We'd be willing, can do that.
Okay,
It's fine. If you're only talking about widening the gravel road to the end of the property,
That was my only
Thank
real intent. I didn't expect the impact.
That's how I
of it.
understood it, too.
Thanks for-
myself included.
Yeah.
It's to the property.
okay, thanks for bringing that up, so we have the opportunity to clarify that.
Just to the property
within the
line,
vote.
and I didn't expect that the utilities would have to extend farther
Mm-hmm.
than that, what you need to serve the work that you're doing.
Right, the waiver is specific to the paving, not to the utility.
Okay, just so we can clarify that, so everybody understands what the vote is.
Just,
Okay, yes, Doug, you
no, I
go.
was going to say, just the widening itself is all
Okay,
my intent on the waiver, on the motion.
so we have the motion, we have the amendment to the motion, and to the motion, all in favor of the 4 who can vote, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that passes. Thank you for bringing that up again. Move on now, the applicant is the Falmouth Planning Board. The amendments to rules and regulations governing the subdivision of land and rules and regulations governing special permits and site plan reviews, and this is the protocol for site visits. We have voted it as a board. We've held a public hearing on it. We've had no comments from the public hearing, and we now need to vote it to be put in to our rules and regulations. And let's go from there. Since we already voted it, I don't think we should have a problem with it. It was 6-1, I believe, the vote was, when we voted it.
It's open for discussion, Madam Chair.
Yeah, we will certainly discuss it, but I just wanted to point out the history as I remembered it. And does anybody have anything further to say that we hadn't brought up originally?
What are we discussing? I don't quite follow what you're saying.
The Falmouth Planning Board proposed protocol for site visits. Because now officially we have to vote it where we voted it so that we could have a public hearing on it. As opposed to where we vote things to the warrant. We are now voting this to go into our rules and regulations governing the subdivision of land and rules and regulations.
Okay.
Governing special permits and site plan reviews, so that whenever this comes up, it's now an official policy that anybody can refer to as to how this is to take place. Yes, Doug?
One comment I have is, rather than site visits convening at Town Hall, I think we could designate a place that's a town-owned place, maybe it's a fire station or a school parking lot or somewhere in the neighborhood of where the site, closest to the site visit. Then we could go as a group to the site, if that's the intent.
Because some are more, like a fire station in East Falmouth would be more convenient to a site in East Falmouth.
Right. Say, for instance, if I was working in Mashpee and the site visit was in Wacoit, I wouldn't want to have to drive to Town Hall and then back up to Wacoit.
So you'd like to amend that, number 3, site visits shall convene at the town hall or other public building.
Or other
Public property?
or town-owned property or something like that.
It would have to be a building for the purpose of this,
Okay,
or other public building,
okay.
okay?
Yep.
Okay. I heard you take a breath, Bob. What?
Yeah, I'm just, go ahead, you had your hand up. I just took a breath.
Are you ready to
I'd like to
exhale?
address item 4. It seems appropriate to me that it would be appropriate that a member of the staff attend these meetings when we go out on the site. And if so, it would be relatively easy for that particular staff member to write the minutes. The minutes are a one-page document, not a big deal. So I don't know why we're trying to say the board members have to take turns and write the minutes and then submit them to the staff that does something with them. I don't know why we can't have a member of the staff attend the site visit and just write the minutes and submit them for approval as we do normally.
Comment?
Typically, the secretary or clerk takes the minutes, but obviously in practice, like last time I did. So you might just, minute-taking duties should be shared amongst the board members, or it's designated.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if we, rather than having a meeting here at Town Hall on the day of the site visit, if we couldn't decide to have a site visit at the meeting prior to it, so that, it's like Doug says, because a lot of us are around different parts of town, and to go for one part to the center of town, only to go further out or something, where we used to just meet at the site, we'd get the location and meet at the site. I think we know when we want to visit a site, when things come up, and if that could be part of the discussion for a particular item on the agenda, if we decide then to take a vote, do we want to go on a site visit for this project, if we couldn't just do it at the meeting where that comes up?
When we discussed it, that was a point that we brought up, that with the discussion of the plan, whatever it is, the board can note that, yes, they want a site visit on this. It's a complex site, and we want.
Yeah.
And so at that time, you're absolutely right, that we say we would like a site visit. And this is just the way it will play out. That's when the request would be made, and then the staff would have to schedule it with the property owner, because it is private property.
Right.
And we would be notified, I would assume via email, as to the date and time,
Yeah.
and where we would be gathering. Does that make sense?
You need to ask permission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But does that have to be further spelled out in number 1? Yeah, that's the way it will work.
And
Yes, Doug?
we had discussed also that we would have the preliminary view of the plan here in the meeting, and maybe at that time would be the time to ask the applicant for permission to do a site visit, and we'd come to a consensus at that initial meeting and do the site visit subsequently.
Effectively, things will work that way because it's more efficient.
Right.
If we want to do it and the applicant or his or her legal people are here presenting it, or however it's presented, we could in effect ask for permission at that time.
It'll make an extra trip to town hall for them.
Yeah.
Because in the past, we've had site visits preliminary to the initial meeting, which is somehow good, but I think that the initial meeting here first will give us the overview of what's intended, then the site visit. I think it would be a more effective way to do it, although it's going to cost them a little more time and effort.
Well, they don't even have to be on site. They just give us permission.
Well, I mean, the fact that we're going to have them come before us,
Right.
then do the site visit, then obviously they'd have to come back. That's often the case anyway, that they come back. So
Yeah,
I don't think it's too much of a hardship, and it's probably a better process for us.
I think so, from my experience. The few times I've gone out. Yes, Jim?
My understanding of this, though, the site visit is only if we feel we need it.
Exactly.
That's the only point I wanted to make, right?
Yeah, most of these are.
Some we don't need to. But if we don't understand it, or we can't see the plan, or we're not familiar, I mean, sometimes you can look at the plan, and you have to figure out what part of town it's in, but you're not familiar with it at all.
Yeah.
So that's where a site visit really makes a big difference.
And,
Or we know the site, and we
Right.
say, whoa, we need
You're
to
right,
see
the
this
same
better.
converse is also true.
An example of that was the one down in Woods Hole last year, where we, after seeing the map, you look at the maps, and then you hear the presentation, and it was better to go after that
Right, to
presentation.
understand what you were-
understand what you were really looking at.
I've always
Absolutely.
felt that
So,
way.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, other comments? Yes, Ralph?
I'm adamantly opposed to this, as you know. I handed out the memorandum from Frank Duffy referencing site visits. It's also located in the annual briefing that he gives, training that he gives all boards and committees as far as the open meeting law is concerned, and how site visits are approached. I can only assume that you all read the copy of this that I gave you 2 meetings ago. And if the town council specifically states that site visits generally are not subject to the open meeting law, then I do not understand why we're doing this. I've been on the planning board for 12 years without this proposal from our staff, and I saw no problem with the way they were conducted. I live up by the fairgrounds. If there's a site visit up in that area, this would require me to come down to town hall, and unless it was changed, to begin the process. And I think that's an inconvenience that all of us would face if we live in an area where the site visit would be much closer to our home, and we could simply notify the staff, which is what we've done in the past, that we will meet at the site and not come to town hall. I do not understand the reason for this proposal. I think it complicates things. I personally will never take minutes of one of these meetings should this protocol be passed. I think it adds a burden to the planning board members and to the staff. If the staff has to take the minutes, it's cumbersome. It doesn't make any sense. If we have a site visit and we can't come up with a quorum, then the whole thing reverts back to the way we used to do it. So it just makes absolutely no sense to me at all to do this, and that's why I would vote against it.
Does anybody wish to comment further on this? I can tell you that this came after a bit of research from Professor Brabowski, who has kind of written the Bible on planning board stuff here. Yes,
The
Ken?
one thing that I didn't get that note from legal counsel until Ralph showed me, it says it's not a part of generally open meeting law, and that is why we said we needed to post it and put it out there. But our legal counsel is saying it's not generally that. So I don't understand why it has to be posted in the public meeting law.
Brian, would you like to comment?
Yeah, be careful, don't try to take what you see in the practice memo or another context. And generally speaking, unless, this has been devised to help this board stay out of trouble. Gather your evidence and do it correctly. We'll try not to make it a burden, but it's very important as a special permit granting authority and as people who issue permits that get reviewed in a superior court, that the best business practices that we've come up with for you, okay, I'm not going to give you bad advice, is that you post the meeting. And that way, you will always be safe, and you will be able to render a powerful evidentiary decision. You just made one, and unfortunately, we can't really talk about it. I wish I could, because I'd be able to explain things a bit better for you. But it's going to be a home run, that decision. So give it a go. If it turns out that you don't like it, the good news is you can change it. You know, you can have another meeting, another hearing. This is not working, Brian, and we'll try something else. But my advice to the board is give it a go. We'll help you the best way we know how to do it. Okay?
I got a comment on a couple things. I'm somewhat selfish because I live and work within a mile of this building, and everything's easy for me to come here, and that's why I was in favor. And I do understand Ralph's point. However, I am challenged on many, I sit on other boards and meetings, and this open meeting law is really hard to deal with. And I think Brian's point is well taken, that if it opens us up for getting overruled and giving our very good attorneys in this town a chance to come at us, we need to be as careful as we can. And so I think under that situation, as though I understand this is a big change from what it used to be, everything we do with this open meeting law is changing everything. I mean, we're discussing it at every level of the town on the, we have the same thing. I sit on the EDIC, and we're trying to have a meeting, and they were trying to say but we have to make every meeting open meeting so we don't get challenged. And I think that if we can make it work, if it becomes burdensome and it hurts us from doing our job, then we can come back and correct it. So I think times are changing, so I think we have to do this.
I couldn't have said it better. Thank you. You said it very well from other experiences.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is a CYA.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's prudent to do that in light of the language of some of the notices we've received from lawyers as of late. My only concern is that the convening of it at Town Hall does.
We fixed that, though.
Yeah. Or other public buildings.
Okay, so
Yeah.
even at that, I think if it's at the meeting where the project is proposed, that we decide and kind of do some of this protocol work at that meeting so that we can just go to the site with the knowledge that we need to have. And then, we can follow the rest of that as far as minutes.
We can change it, we can amend it if it doesn't work out.
But I'm making my comments predicated on that we're going to review this here first.
Right.
Okay, that we see the plans, and we know what we're talking about before we go.
Right.
That
Right.
is the difference.
Yeah.
Not that we just show up at a site and everything's given us, okay, here's the plan.
Right.
The wind's blowing around, the plans are going this way, we don't really can see everything.
Yeah.
We've already looked at it, we've had a public hearing, everybody knows about it.
Yeah.
Okay, we need a site visit, we all say yes, and then we go.
Yeah.
That's,
So it happens at this desk
yes, first.
first. Okay.
Ken, you had a,
No, I was just going to comment on something, saying, wherever the meeting is going to be held, it has to be posted. That's what I meant about the posting. So where you're going to meet first has to be posted. You can't decide to change it later. Once it's posted, you have to meet there. That's whether it be another building or what. That's what I just want to comment.
I think this complicates things, certainly, and I understand the reason why we have to be very cautious about what happens, but the operative from the town council is deliberations. Now, if we have a meeting and we discuss it here, look at the site, look at everything else, and then go out to the visit just to satisfy our own curiosity, and we do not deliberate at that time, we don't need this protocol. I mean, what we're saying now is we're going to do a process, and the process is to find out what this project really is, have the applicant explain it, or his representative, ask all the questions we want, and then go out in the field and see, yeah, does that make sense to you? And if that's what we're doing without deliberations, we don't really need this, as Ralph is indicating. So I'm troubled by the difficulty of trying to do this when it's really a simple process.
No, it's not. The site visits that I've been on actually lend themselves, once you're on the site, to questions. And once you ask a question and you get a response on that, then you've got deliberations taking place. And I've been on a number of site visits of the more complex properties, and that's inevitably what happens. Because somebody will ask a question, staff will answer the question, and then, there's a response to that, or another question. That's a deliberation.
A simple question is, what is that?
Right.
Which I am guilty of doing.
Sure, we all are.
But it's just information gathering. If you ask, what is that? That's gathering information. It's not deliberation.
No, because then it goes, the answer is, and then the next question is, well, what does that mean? Doug?
I think the key to it is the posting, and then if any concerned citizen wants to observe the process, they know about it.
Right.
And then the minutes are important too, because then it can reflect, Jim asked, what is that? And Mr. Curry answered, that's a tree. So forth.
Or a tree for sale.
Or it appears to be a tree.
But that's exactly why we have to have this protocol, because we have had suits filed against us, and we need to have everything to substantiate what we're doing that we can possibly get to, so that we're not at risk.
Well, I think too that if we conduct the information gathering here with a presentation and all that, I think we'll find that we won't need a lot of site visits.
Right.
Because a lot of us have been around town long enough that we know a lot of these places. I knew all the places that we talked about tonight. I didn't need to go visit them because I've been there before and I'm familiar with them. And I think that this would actually eliminate some site visits for some of us.
Okay? All right.
One more question.
Yes, Doug?
How important is it that we meet at the public building first? I mean,
Just to open your meeting.
At the site.
and so...
So the public knows.
But as long as we posted it and we have the date and time, could we consider meeting at the site if it was in a remote area?
Let me find out. I used the public building because it was a safe thing to use. So let me find out, you can always amend it later.
Okay. Because we could say it should meet at town hall or public building or the site.
Or
And then we have
other,
flexibility.
Yeah, we thought about that, we talked about that. Let me think about that some more for you.
Okay.
okay. Yes, Paul?
If anyone in the public is really interested, they probably live in the vicinity of the site. So by telling them we're going to visit such and such site at such time, they're going to be there because they probably live in the neighborhood. So it becomes difficult for them to go somewhere else and have to come back, same as we're saying we don't have to go to town hall and go back out there. So it would be very easy to do that if that's what you decide to do.
Right, because they'll know we're going to meet and then we're going to be there shortly thereafter.
And I have no objection to modifying as long as it was first discussed at the meeting here.
Yeah.
So it covers me. I just don't like going to a site and having everything handed to you right there for the first time, you don't even know what you're looking at.
Right.
If we discuss it here first, I don't care. If it works for Ralph or anyone else, I'm fine with that.
Instead of "or other public building," should we change that to "or other appropriate site"?
Yeah.
No? Okay, not at this point. Again, I would point out that Brian got a lot of this information from a very approved source, I guess is what I would call it. Very well known within the planning people of Massachusetts. All right, then I would like a motion, please, that we recommend the protocol for site visits to be incorporated in as an amendment to rules and regulations governing the subdivision of land and rules and regulations governing special permits and site plan reviews.
We're not actually voting it yet, because it's still going to be reviewed a little more.
No, we put the amendments in here already that we were going to,
As amended.
yeah, as amended.
Okay.
What are the amendments?
Brian's gonna look into.
Okay, the amendments are, number 3, site visits shall convene at the town hall or other public building. And number 4, minute-taking duties shall be shared among the board members or its designee.
Brian's still looking into whether or not we can use the site as a location.
I don't know how long it would take to find that out.
I can bring it back.
Okay,
I mean, I want the board to be comfortable. You know,
Okay.
You want me to look into this some more? You don't have to.
Unless we're under
Yeah.
time constraint.
No, you don't.
I'd like to get it back.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
wait, till-
Those-
yeah, let's not
That's
vote,
Yeah,
let's
let's
wait
take
till we
it
get
under
it back.
advisement
okay,
That's
and
fine.
get the revised.
No
one
rush.
back.
sure. Okay, that's fine.
Or, and you're looking just to be able to open it up on public property or private property that's open to the public. I can
We
look at
could
that.
use public property primarily, say, for instance, if it was on King Street, Town Hall wouldn't be bad. If it was in South Hollow Drive, the East Falmouth Fire Station would be good. But
Yeah.
as Ralph's point, if it's way out by the fairgrounds, there's really not a good public place there.
Okay, let me look at other public building or other language. So if you can meet at the DPW barn at Courier Road. It's a public building.
I see what you mean.
You know what I mean? That's a
Or
public.
White's Landing, or any,
Right.
Okay.
we have
So-
plenty
so
of
we have
public
some
land.
flexibility.
Yeah, so if you want me to look at that some more for you, I will.
See what the constraints are as to,
Sure.
Okay.
okay, meeting place. All right, so we'll see this again the first week in January, most likely.
I'll get it back to you.
Okay. We have a discussion, the goals and policies for the housing element of the local comprehensive plan for April 2015 town meeting. And what we have to do is vote this to the warrant. If you have any further discussion, we need to hear it now, because as you know, the warrant is closing. What is it, like January 6th or something?
9th.
9th, okay.
Something like that, yeah.
It's way too close. So we,
Just finished one and we're on
well,
top of the other.
that's why we try not to bring any kind of bylaws or changes to this town meeting.
Right, the finance committee, so I've asked us to use November over the years and try to stay away from the budget time.
So you have in here the draft, and we did bring it up to all of you before. And at that point, as I recall, there were no changes to the goal and the 3 policies. You had comments on the action items, but what we're voting on tonight is simply recommending it to the warrant for the Springtown meeting. Yes, Ralph?
I move that we accept this goal and policies for housing for the Springtown meeting of 2015,
We have to recommend it to the warrant specifically.
to the warrant.
Okay?
Okay,
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any, I didn't hear any discussion. Yes, Paul?
I understand what we're trying to do here, but some of these things don't seem to be very operational. For example, Falmouth shall meet the housing needs. Well, Falmouth is not able to meet the housing needs as a town. And then we go on to say shall allow for greater infill residential density. Well, that involves a lot of issues.
But it's a goal.
Zoning and everything else.
Right. It's a,
That, if that's what's intended there, maybe we should be saying those kinds of things.
we can't under this. Those are the action items. What this is that we're looking ahead 100 years. And so the goal for the community as a whole is to meet the housing needs of everyone in the community.
Certainly you don't disagree with we should meet the housing needs of everyone in our community as a goal. I mean, that's a target. That's what we're trying to do.
Unless there are some people you don't want to have.
Well, that
What
could
you're
be.
saying is, Are you trying to address the housing needs, or are you trying to physically meet those needs? And there is a slight difference there. I understand that goal may be to meet the housing needs, but that's not something that you can do. You can address the housing needs and try to implement policies and things that move that.
Well, this is a goal, Paul.
I understand.
And then what happens, I guess,
Maybe it should say someday.
but we,
Well, it is 100, it still at 100 years.
Yeah.
hopefully we'll have action items that'll be a lot more specific and get us to where we need to be.
We
And that's
talked
really
about-
what the intention is here, is to lay out the goals and the policies that encourage action items that move towards those goals and policies.
I like it because it's a strong statement, even though it's just a pie-in-the-sky goal.
Right, it's
That's
very
the choice,
broad.
yeah.
Falmouth shall meet the housing needs of everyone in the community. Maybe not today, but it's a goal.
It's hard to argue with that.
Yeah, I mean, how I look at it is when we started on these things years ago too, is it's a goal, it remains constant. We want to meet the needs. The action items will always be changing. Just as you said, we can't get there with this, so what else can we do to try to get there? That's what will continue to change, the action items over the next 50 or 100 years, not necessarily the goal.
Any further comments?
No, I think it's wide-reaching and it's all good.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of recommending it to the warrant? Aye. Okay, thank you. The next one on here is possible amendments to the accessory apartment bylaw and report of the LCP committee, subcommittee. The reason for putting this on here is it's a bit of a commitment of the staff, their energies, if we want to do this. It's not just that simple. This is one of the major easy picking things that came out of the housing needs study, is to be able to amend the accessory apartment bylaw to allow for more affordable housing possibilities. And the LCP subcommittee believes that it should be taken up as one of the easier pickings that we can do. So I'd like to hear any thoughts on that from board members. Yes, Doug?
I think it's long overdue to review that because currently it's very hard to qualify. And I think that so many people know that it's so hard to qualify that they don't even try. And we might be missing out on a lot of affordable housing.
That was the thought of the subcommittee, and that's essentially the report too. Yes, Ken?
Is this something, I know like we talked about different things we need to put on different warrants, that we should look at maybe bringing up possibly in the November warrant, working on it now, getting our information over the season in the summer? Is that what
We'd like to.
that's what I wanted to ask, okay.
Jim?
Yeah, I'm one of the ones who's pushing hard for this, and particularly, one of my other committees, the EDIC, is also pushing hard. We look at this as low-hanging fruit. There's many things with housing are very, very difficult to do, and if we could, as a town, rewrite our bylaws and start looking at making this easier to do, many units could be created. However, it does require staff time, bylaw changes, hearings, process that is really difficult, public hearings and forth. So the idea is to get it started. And I don't know when it's going to finish, but if we do put it in the pipeline, that's the attempt, is to get this on the agenda, put it in the pipeline, start listening to the people that want this to happen, have them all come and talk about the pluses and minuses, hearing everything. We all remember, the windmill bylaws, how many discussions and making changes to our bylaws because it's a 2/3 vote. It's not an easy thing to do. We have to have a lot of input. It's not going to be something that's done quickly.
Right.
So this is the beginning of the process, but the reason why it's put on is because somebody's got to sit down and take the first crack at it, and we're attempting to assign it to our staff to do that, and that's what this is an attempt to do.
And this all goes together with the goals and policies.
Right.
That's one of the first,
But it's not going to be easy,
Action items.
and actually, here's Mike, he wanted
Right.
to talk about this.
And as I recall, it kind of stemmed from one of the policies that we were working on, that we wanted to have more local control over affordable housing
Right.
in Falmouth. And how do we go about doing that? And when we started looking at the bylaws, we said, well, we got some things that we can change right here that could affect that, so that we're not always under the gun of 40B or any other entity like that, that we would have more control, and it would be a friendlier environment to develop affordable housing in, as opposed to other methods.
also the dispersion
Mhm.
factor too.
What I really like about it is, if you think about it, this is really our own people here, okay? This is people that own their own homes. Some of them could be family members. Even if they're not family members, it's still benefiting homeowners. What we need to do is very carefully study all the different criteria we have to, I don't want to just throw this out there. We got to talk about everything. We got to talk about lot size, we got to talk about parking, building size, changes in proportion to the house, how much, there's a whole myriad of things that need to be discussed. But the two things that benefit is our homeowners in town and the people that live here. This is for Falmouth people more than anything else, and that's why I really think it's important to do, if we can. Maybe we can't, but we should at least take a crack on it. I hear other towns have done it, and that's only anecdotal information, I don't know that for sure. But I would like to have staff or other people report on other towns that have done this and see how successful it is, and understand where we can apply it, and see if there's something that we can create in 2 or 3 years. 800 affordable units scattered throughout town. That was the idea behind it.
Well, you look at housing throughout the past 100 years, and you see how it's changed from big, single-family homes that have been divided up later. I mean, that's happened everywhere as populations shift and demographics change.
Before zoning, people at Falmouth just built another house on their
Yeah.
property, and it was in the backyard. That's what we did.
Well, we got Glenwood, this garage.
No, it just
turned
happened.
into apartments.
The people did this intuitively.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
did it. Now we need a place for it, we'll just put it out there. And it just happened. Now
Well,
we gotta-
we're missing a lot of opportunities too, because I have people that say, oh, I'd like to put a 2-car garage with a room above it. And they come from, another town where it's easy to do, back home, I don't know, wherever they might come from, and they find out that it's just not really possible here, and they end up changing their plans and maybe just doing just a garage with no room above it, where it could be a space for a single person to live.
Yeah.
So we should definitely look into it.
Yeah, one of the necessary things that was pointed out again in that housing study was the need for lower cost, affordable places for single working people to live. And that's the kind of thing that we've been talking about in the subcommittee as good for the accessory apartments. We also have an aging population, and the elderly people may want to live in an accessory apartment while they rent their major home. So there are many things that we have to look at in regard to the accessory apartment bylaw. And I know Jim says, look at other examples for it, but we first have to decide what we really want to see for Falmouth, what would work in Falmouth. So I'm getting a consensus here that people do want to see staff time spent on this. Is that,
Yes.
is there, I should say, is there anybody who doesn't want to see this? Okay. Go to it, Brian.
Come on, man.
I know, I knew that was the next comment.
So noted, thank you.
Okay, and Mike Galasso has sat in on a number of our subcommittee meetings, and he's a wealth of information for this type of thing that goes on in other places too, and has been very forthcoming with help to our subcommittee. Thank you, Mike. Okay, future agenda items. What does anybody wish to see on a future agenda? And Paul, I passed on your comments. Yes, Ralph?
Yeah, I'd ask maybe if our staff could give us a status update on the appeal from the Tavares decision, and then also the status on the handout that Brian gave us several months ago, the editorial and legal analysis of our bylaw 240.
I have another future agenda item that will be forthcoming. So I guess maybe the EDIC will actually be the applicant, but we're pushing hard to get a solar site over the landfill. And one of the things that is really, really important to us is the timing of it. There's some tax credits that go away very quickly, and other things
You're
that...
discussing it. You'd like to have a
Okay,
presentation?
sorry. I would like to have it on the agenda. Excuse me, I didn't want to,
Okay.
I was given the reasons why. I shouldn't.
So,
A
alternative
bylaw change for the landfill area. I don't know if it's a rezone. We would like to make, it's a public use. The area is public use, and if there's any way that a solar,
So you want a discussion?
the discussion on the solar,
discussion as
on
to
a
use-
change for
Alternative use of the cap landfill.
well, it's a zoning change that needs to be done. And it's zone public use, and under public use, it does
No,
not...
Don't discuss it.
Yeah.
No,
We
no,
just
I'm
want
just
that
trying
on
to...
the
You are
agenda.
discussing it.
Oh, I was
You
just
know we
giving
can't.
the reason for the
That's
discussion.
discussion.
Okay,
That's what happens when we go out on site plans. Okay?
a discussion on zoning changes, period.
Okay,
Leave it at that.
okay. Now, general correspondence, do you have
We're
anything?
not finished, are we?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought,
I had a bunch of items,
well, I know, and I passed them on, but go ahead.
but the two I'd like to bring up involve the county studies. We give a lot of money to the county to do studies, and we've talked for months now about the Route 28 planning study. And I don't know where that is. We ought to get some kind of feedback as to the
fine.
status of that, where it's going, what the program is, the extent of it. You know, we've offered a number of things at a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen. I have no idea where that is, so it'd be appropriate to do that.
You just want a report from staff as to where it stands.
And
Okay.
secondly, I understand the county is considering a solid waste study as well. If they are, it'd be nice to know what they're planning on doing. Now, there is a solid waste report that was recently finished that was discussed at the selectmen's meeting. I have not seen the report, but I understand it is available. That would be something that'd be very helpful for us, particularly when we're talking about some of these bylaw changes.
Okay? Okay, anybody else? Since I was jumping the gun already.
Well, the correspondence might lead to another agenda item. How do we do that?
I'm sorry, the draft letter.
Yeah.
Okay, that comes under general correspondence, and the reason it does is because I had received an email from Annie Saganek in regard to support for her grant application with the Falmouth Fund for the hall over here. And she just wants to have the planning board give support for her grant application. So she sent me some idea as to what she was looking for and the why of it and how this fits in. And so I rephrased it, and I would be looking for any changes that anybody wishes to make to this, and then we can email it out to Annie probably tomorrow. Her application is due by 5 PM on Monday.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Electronic.
Well, I read it, and I'm very in support of it.
Yeah. I don't have
Do
any
you
changes that I would
see any
recommend.
changes you want to make in this?
Read it three or
Not
four
really,
times.
because,
No, it's very good.
very good.
Okay. Okay, so then you're all in favor of having this go out under my signature on behalf, oh, Brian says we probably ought to take a vote on it.
Yeah.
Make a motion that we accept this and send this out.
Is there a second,
I'll
please?
second.
Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I tend on something like this not to see the importance of a vote, but yeah, we should. When it's got to do with money.
At its meeting, they voted is much more powerful than you write.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unanimous support.
Yes, we'll make that change.
Yeah, please. Okay. So then this will go on letterhead, and I'll come in tomorrow morning and sign it. And it will go out. Okay?
Okay?
Anything else? Okay, guys.
Can I mention one other thing?
Yes.
I'd like to have this item on the agenda most meetings, if not once a month, future agenda items. We seem to have skipped by, but I think it's appropriate to bring it up periodically. Maybe every other meeting or once a month or something, because there are a bunch of items that seem to be falling by the wayside.
Okay.
To that point, I think we should do a review of the old minutes and see all the things that have been brought up that may be out there, because I think we've had a lot of things we've talked about, the future agenda items. I may not recall them all now, but it might be a good idea to review and see if we've missed anything, because I think we have.
Maybe so. I don't recall anything, but that's okay.
Oh, just a good check
Yeah.
is what I'm asking for.
I think we should allow Mr. Fox to do that, since he
brought it up.
No, I was suggesting that the clerk do it.
How you get yourself into trouble.
There you go. I second the motion that Jim reads them all.
I was suggesting it's the clerk's job to do it.
I can't think of anyone better.
And before we adjourn, I'd like you all to know that Sam Houghton and Lannon O'Brien have changed places. Lannon was in Mashpee. She is here now, and Sam has moved over to Mashpee. So she will be covering our meetings in the future.
Welcome.
Hi, nice to meet you.
You've probably seen her byline in the Enterprise already.
What's her name?
Lannon O'Brien.
Yeah, I've seen it by law, yeah.
So now may I have a motion to adjourn, please? You're not, you want to stay
I
here all
move
night?
that we
huh?
adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.